fundamental element, and we will continue on that journey today as well. As we always do, we are going to do it as a, we are going to go through the 3 segments that we have. And if you are new to the sessions, we'd love to know more about you. Please feel free to raise your hand, introduce yourself, or fill out the feedback tracker. It's always good to know people who might be joining in new, especially if they have any specific questions. We keep recapping the foundational elements, so it's never too late to join. In case you think we are pretty ahead in the journey, that's not the case. We keep going back and forth on all the key concepts. So without much ado, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. Today we have a hard stop at 10. So we will pace it accordingly. Let me share my screen that we can get started with our opening prayers. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Right, Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening to all of you once again. So let's get started with our session for today's. Give me a sec. All right, so this is the shloka. We'll do it for one last time before we move on to other shlokas for this chapter. I'm going to recite it and you're welcome to follow along. Karmanya karmaya pashe akarmani cha karmayah Sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta kritsna karma krit. Okay, so let's take a few hands and then we'll get started.
Sandhya, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Sandhya.
Karmanya karmayah pashyet akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayuktah kritsna karma krita.
Very nice, thank you. Who's next?
Radhe Radhe. Surya Prakash ji.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Karmanya karmaya pashyet akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayukta krishna karma krit. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Uday Kumar ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Karmani akarmayah pashyet akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta kritsna karma krit. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe, very nice, thank you, Udachi. Okay, we can
Radhe Radhe.
3 hands.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Karmani karmaya pashyed akarmani cha karmaya sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta kritsna karma krit. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Last but not the least, Rameshi, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Karmanya karmaya pashyet akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayuktah kritsna karma krita. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Rameshi. Thank you. So let's get started. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is telling Arjun that those who see action in action in action in action are truly wise amongst humans. And then we have highlighted some words here because that is going to be our gateway towards Karm Yog. So pay close attention to these things. He's saying that although performing all kinds of actions, they are yogis and masters of their actions, because it's truly in action that we have spoken about, right? So let's get started. We'll start with soul soup for the day. Now, this is a very important concept, okay? It's a scriptural concept, and we need to reflect on it. This is the principle that is applicable to our lives regarding any and every endeavor that we take. Okay, so let's look at it. The soul soup of the day is going to be, all right, so this is a verse. Sa yatha kamo bhavati tat kratur bhavati yat kratur bhavati tat karma kurute yat karma kurute tad abhinishpadyate. What does it mean? Very complicated, right? So let's look at it. So what it means is, when you have an intense desire, okay, so then what happens for something? Then you make a determined resolve. Okay, it all starts with an intense desire. You make a determined resolve. And when you have a determined resolve, you will put in intense effort. And when you put in intense effort, that is how you will become. So this is a very simple principle. It all starts with an intense desire for something. When you have it, like a lot of people say, right, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. It's a lack of priority more than a lack of time. Okay, just replace it where it's not my priority. And you say, right, I've been trying to do it for so long, but I have not been able to do it. Again, you have to really cross-check around it. If you go back, did you have an intense desire to do that? It is said that when you have a will, there is a way. So it all starts with an intense desire. If you really want to do something, when you really put your mind to something, when you make that resolve or the sankalp, then that effort will commensurate with it. You will put that kind of an effort in that activity as well. And when you put intense effort, that starts becoming reflecting in your work and your outcomes as well. That is how it's meant to be. So it's a beautiful nugget from our scriptures. On the other hand, what do we have? What is this? It's chai, okay? No offense to chai at all. On the other hand, you have the chai attitude. Now, what is this chai attitude? Chalta hai attitude, okay? Chalta hai. So when you have when does it happen? When does this chalta hai attitude comes? It comes when it is not backed with an entire intense desire. It's like, hoga, then also it's fine. Nahi hoga, let's just try it. Lukewarm kind of a thing, right? And we do it in so many things in life. Jo hoga dekha jayega, I will do it, we'll try. Okay, our mind is making up excuses, okay? That we got to be very cautious about it. Swamiji says, right, if there is anything worth doing, it is worth doing well. Otherwise, don't do it. Right? So this is a very, very key concept to be understood. So this chalta hai attitude is becomes, our undoing in most of the things. Chalta hai. Right? That chalta hai should not be chalta hai for everything in life, especially for things that matter, that are worthy of our attention and pursuit. We need to bring in the required intensity to that. And it all starts with an intense desire. And why would you get an intense desire? We get intense desire for something that we are intellectually convinced about. And how do we get intellectually convinced about something? By deep contemplation. What do we need to deeply contemplate about? Proper knowledge. Where does the proper knowledge come from? Scriptures. How do you get access to scriptures? Under the guidance of Guru, right? They are all interlinked concepts. So once we start understanding the deeper secrets about life and what is truly good for us, what is truly taking us, or uplifting our journey, Then we start deeply contemplating upon it. Then it, of course, when we deeply contemplate upon something, then it starts becoming a desire. And our attachment as well to that particular thing, and then of course our effort will commensurate to that. When you start with a half-hearted thing, then your effort will also be like that. So that is how it goes in all walks of life. It's an important concept because even in this that concept that we are going to discuss, right? Once we understand the science behind it, then we have to purposefully, mindfully, consciously practice it at the back of our mind for it to become our second nature. So that desire needs to be there, because if the desire is not there, then it will be becoming a wishy-washy kind of a thing, right? There is one kind of a resolve that people take, that one kind of a resolve where people just give up their lives for a particular cause. And then there is another kind of a resolve, which is called a New Year resolve, right? Wishy-washy resolves, which you keep on making every year. So we really have to pick and choose the kind of resolves we want to bring to the fore. All right. So nothing against chai again, but chalta hai attitude has to be, we got to be cautious about in a lot of walks of our life. All right. So with that said, Soul Soup, let's move on to our topic of our discussion. I'll make it interactive today, more reflective today, because we have limited time. And I will be setting the tone for the Karm Yog, right? So we have done this topic multiple times in the past. So I'll try to do it a little different way, where rather than me telling something directly, I'll let you think about it and come up with response, and we'll make it a little interactive, okay? So we'll do it slightly differently this time around. All right. So what is this gentleman doing? Okay, so this is a guy who's selling clothes. So he opens up his shop. Most of the shopkeepers, when they open the shop, right, they start with an oath. आज मैं झूठ बोलूंगा and झूठ के अलावा सिवा कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा, right? Today I'm going to lie, and other than lie, I'm not going to speak anything, because that's how you do business, right? So this guy opens up his shop. So then what happens? What happens is another guy walks in. So he's sprinkling water and doing his Ganesh Puja and Saraswati Puja, or Lakshmi Puja rather. And there is a guy who drops in his shop. And this guy is ecstatic. Oh my God, bony time. And I have not even completed my morning prayers to Lakshmi, and Lakshmi has already graced me. So this guy walks in. He looks pretty wealthy as well. He walks in and he's so ecstatic and so happy and so welcoming. Okay. So when he walks in, this guy, the first thing that he asks is, where is the shoe shop here? Now his mood starts changing. He says, what kind of a question? Don't you see this is a cloth shop? Why are you asking for the shoe shop? Right? By the way, the shoe shop is, don't ask me. He said, but I've heard that there's a shoe shop. He said, yeah, go there in the corner. So all of a sudden his welcoming attitude has become turned a bit hostile. Right? All of a sudden it has become hostile. And he's upset with this guy, right? Bony time, and this guy's messed up my day. But then this guy changes, he said, okay, nevertheless, now that I've come here, let me check out some clothes as well. And all of a sudden his attitude has changed again. Again, he said, oh, come. Okay, he said, show me one cloth. He said, no, I'll show you 25 of those. Then he starts shopping. So now again, his attitude has changed. He's become welcoming again, right? Very hospitable. Shall I bring you some tea or water or something like that? He said, no, that's fine, but start showing me clothes. Then what happens? Then the negotiation starts happening. Okay, how much does this cloth cost for? He says 2,000 rupees per meter or whatever. Okay. And then this guy says, no, you know what? 1,200, not more than that. He said, bony time, sir. You have to give me, at least 1,500 for this. And he said, no, I'm not going to give you anything more than 1,200. And then he starts further saying, in fact, 1,200 is also more for this kind of a cloth. My neighbor got it from, some shop for 600 bucks. I'm paying you more and all that. Then they start negotiating. And this guy says, I'm giving you at the mill rate, 1,350 and no less than that. He said, no, I'm not going to budge from 1,200. And then he said, get out. Okay. So everything changes. So you see, the attitude has fluctuated between how he started off and then how he felt, and then in between, and then towards the end. All that stuff is happening in a matter of few minutes here and there. Okay. Now let's hear another story. Today's a story time only. Now there is a factory, grand factory, which is on fire. Okay, it's a grand factory which is on fire. And father and son are having this. So father is like completely appalled and dejected. He's saying, my God, my factory is on fire. What has happened? My lifetime earnings are ruined and this and that, until his son comes and say, Father, you forgot 3 days back we sold it to that guy. His factory is no longer ours. So father all of a sudden he's, oh, thank God, he's relieved now. Okay, this factory doesn't belong to us. But then the son said, you know what? But the contract deal, the check has bounced. It has not gone through as yet. Now father is upset again. Oh my God, what has happened? If doesn't. Then the said, but you know what? This man is of honor. He will still honor the deal, and it has gone away from us. Okay, it doesn't belong to us anymore. And again, he is happy. So you see the fluctuation in emotions that's happening with this shopkeeper, and in this case, the father as well. The object is same. What is going on here? So let's understand. So these fluctuations are happening, somebody starts off happy, then they start becoming upset, right? Angry, relieved, neutral. When this guy says all these fluctuations are happening, what is the primary reason for these fluctuating emotions? Anybody? This is a story of our life, right? Story of our day, basically. We start off in a certain mood, and then the auto rickshaw or guys or the guy who honked on the side does something, and the mood fluctuates. And it's a story of our life. What's the primary reason for these fluctuating emotions? Let's hear from a few participants to take the discussion forward. I hope you like this shopkeeper, how he starts his day and how within a matter of few minutes, all the mood swings have started happening. Let's hear from a few participants to take the discussion forward, and then we'll go to the next slide.
Sandhya, Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe. Yeah, I guess the primary reason is because these people are seeking happiness in the material world, which itself is temporary. So the happiness will also keep fluctuating.
True. You've gone a little too far ahead, very deep into this concept. Yes, true. That is essentially the main reason. Very true. Let's hear from others as well. And then, yes, Preeti ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. When the attachment changes, when the cloth seller realizes that it is the shoes, he has no stake over there. He has no gain. He has no attachment. And
Yeah.
similarly, the father, when he says that the owner is not me anymore, his attachment from the factory is off. So that is the reason.
True. Attachment, very true. That's what I would. Attachment is there, right, to a particular thing, an object of desire, and based on how their attachment, the mood keeps on fluctuating. Yes, Rahul, you wanted to add something? Let's hear from a couple more hands, and then we'll take it forward.
Radhe Radhe. I also wanted to say attachment, and there is one comment in the chat from Satadaji. He mentions external circumstances are the primary reason.
External circumstances. Okay, that's an interesting one. We'll come back to that. So it's the external circumstances. Basically, these people have given keys to their mood to people around, right? Only when they turn the key, then they'll feel happy. Is it a good spot to be in, or would they rather take the keys to their happiness in their own hand? That's another discussion altogether. But yes, in this case, it's fluctuating based on their attachment. Yes, Shweta, you wanted to add? And then
in the meantime, Uday Kumar ji says it's the mind and the way we look at the external world. Jyoti ji says expectation of return.
Expectation of return, very true. Yes, Monica ji, go ahead. And then you can
Radhe Radhe. On similar lines, Radhe ji, either attachment with the results, expectations, or attachment with people.
True. Shweta ji.
I think it is attachment to the material thing. You don't let go of the money.
Attachment, yeah,
And
yes.
also little bit of ego, little bit of
True.
ego there.
Yeah, we'll take maybe one more hand and then we'll keep the discussion forward. So I just want to come back to the concept so that when we get to that concept, you already answered that question rather than me telling you something, right? You say, yeah, this makes sense. Yes, Seema and Guddu, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, can we say greed? It's the greed that's making him.
Yeah, it's end of the day, we have to make some money, or we are pretty attached to the thing that we own. So yeah, there are different shades of the thing that is coming. It could be greed as well. Very true. Great. Let's hear from two more hands, SSPG and then Vikas.
I think desire is the main thing, sir. Desire. Everything through desire only.
True. Yes, Vikas, you wanted to add something? Don't ask.
Hello.
Radhe,
Radhe.
Radhe.
Hello.
Yes, you wanted to ask something, Vikas?
Yeah. I just forget what I have to ask.
Okay. Wait. That may not be a bad problem to have. Okay, so that's fine. Let's move on. We can come back, Vikas, once you remember it. So let's continue then. So yes, the primary reason here is, of course, they're based on their self-interest. The moment they feel their self-interest is going to get served, right? Self-interest, of course, we all operate out of selfishness, and that is perfectly okay. Now, when it is impeded, they become upset. When they think, now it is again getting served or it's not being harmed, then we become neutral. So emotions change, keep on fluctuating. And that's, see, so beautifully, Lord Krishna has explained that, right? He's a master psychologist. In so many ways, he has touched upon pretty much all the aspects of life. He's an equality advocator when he talks about those Chaturvaran. Then he's a master dietitian and nutritionist, where he's going to talk about that as well. So if you think about any aspect of life, he's going to touch upon that. So in this particular case, he's saying that, these emotions also, a lot of things to actually understand from this microcosm of our world itself, how our emotions keep on fluctuating. So in this particular case, it's definitely the attachment aspect that is bringing about so much of transition of emotion within a span of few minutes or maybe an hour or so, right? Shopkeeper starts happy, and then he becomes upset, and then again he gets back to and then he becomes completely neutral when he's walking off, again happy when he comes back, and all that stuff that happens. So it's an attachment aspect of it. When it is served, then we are happy. If it is not served, our self-interest born out of attachment, then we become upset. Let's move on. Now let's talk about this work as well, and then let's see what is the commonality or what so here is a surgeon who's performing an operation, right? And so these are regular patients, and in this case, the surgeon is performing an operation on its own son. Okay, this is one scenario. Then you have a teacher who's teaching regular kids in the school, and the same teacher is teaching own kid at home. Okay, do you see any difference basically between the work performed on either side? Is there any difference? Like, say, when somebody is treating a regular patient and they are treating their own son, what is the difference? Let's take hands.
Radhe. Yeah, I think the difference is the attachment level. Because if it's our own son, we are so much attached to something of our own that it'll make a very huge difference, basically.
So in the other case, what is happening? What is happening when they're treating the regular patients like a factory work one after another, right? Surgeons, they are scheduled to operate on 5-6 surgeries as well at times during the day. What is the difference between the two things? There is a certain faculties we need to utilize to do the job at hand, right? So what is the difference between something which is happening on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side? Attachment, of course, that is one part, which may be there, but for most part, it's like not present there. They're doing it as part of their job only, right? Anything more that anybody else wants to add to this?
Shalini ji, Radhe.
I think Radhe. I think in the second instance, when they're teaching their own kids or child, there are a lot more emotions involved. A doctor will be really scared when he's operating on his own son, and I think a lot more emotions would be there.
Emotions, attachment, scare, fear, all that stuff come in, right? But on the left-hand side, they are doing it as a matter of their job, right? As a matter of their duty alone, nothing more than that. Good point. Yes, Sandhya, you wanted to add something? And Rahul, we can take you as well.
Yeah, Sandhya, Radhe.
Yeah, just wanted to add this. When there is this factor of attachment, the intellect can also get bewildered and one can become unstable, and because you are a stakeholder in that situation. So yeah.
Good point. Good point. We'll come back to that. Yes, Rahul?
Take Tarunji, the meantime.
Yes, Tarunji.
I think main thing is the selfishness in everything.
In one case, you have some kind of a self-interest involved. In other case, you are neutral, right? Let me put it that way. Yeah, you are neutral basically. I've not seen any teacher cry, if their classes, I mean, of course, they'll feel bad, but there's a level of what you call that neutrality or indifference towards something, right? Because it's part of your job that you do. But when it comes to your own, now some emotions start riling up. There's some kind of an attachment that comes into picture, and something more than the work at hand comes into your mind as well. The same teacher who's a cool customer at school teaching kids will become riled up, upset, even wielding a stick at this kid because now emotions are running high. They are attached to the outcome, and a lot of other factors are coming into play as well. Rahul, you wanted to add, and then quickly Shanji before we take this discussion forward.
Radhe, iPhone Ganpriyaji says attachment to result when you do for your family. That is what, because in the second picture, the doctor will be thinking about what will be the result or the outcome of the operation.
True. They will be thinking about the outcome. They will be attached. In fact, it is said most of the surgeons, they don't do operations of their family by their own hand. They would call another friend of theirs whom they can trust and rely upon and let them do it. Their hands can shake. Even a perfect surgeon's hands would shake because they are attached. There's an attachment. There's another factor that has been introduced into the dynamics now. Yes, Shanji, you wanted to add something?
Shanji, Radhe Radhe. Yeah.
Shanji,
can you Shanji, can you hear me?
We need to hear you.
Maybe later on we can take it by. In
Okay.
the meantime, we have a comment from Uday Kumar ji. He says anxiety of the doctor on the outcome result when operating on the sun and being detached the same job for regular patients.
True. So there is another variable getting introduced. So I will introduce a concept, and then after going through all these things and actually simulating these scenarios in our head, you will see there are certain variables at play whenever we do some work. Okay. And that is the point I wanted to make, because we are entering into the Karm Yog. We are breaking it out into the fundamentals of how do we operate? How do we operate in this world whenever we take up any activity or any act? Shweta, you wanted to add something? I thought I saw your hand, but okay. So let's move on. Yes, there is a difference between the work performed in the sense that on the right-hand side, there is an element of attachment. There's an element of emotion involved. And on the left-hand side, it is pure work, where your skills are the only factor that matter. And on the right-hand side, it's not just the skill, but an outcome, attachment, and some kind of nervousness would get introduced as well, because there are emotions involved. Okay. So I hope everybody agrees to that part. Now let's move on. So essentially, what Bhagavad Gita says is, yes, Shwetaji, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I have a question. On the left side, those two pictures, in case of that surgeon and the teacher, there may not be personal attachment involved in there, but there may be a professional attachment, meaning I have to get these results, I have to cure this patient, or I have to teach this child and, make sure from C he at least gets B+ grades. So there is some attachment there too, isn't it?
Possibly, if you are a newcomer and you want to prove yourself, yes, there could be. But let's say there's a seasoned surgeon we are talking about. So yes, there could be an attachment. We are not negating that attachment aspect on the left-hand side. Let's say somebody is straight out of college, right? They have a lot of peer pressure. They're competing with somebody, or they have to prove them. So there could be attachment involved. But let's say take an ideal scenario. There's a surgeon who has been working for 40 years. He cranks out surgeries like a factory work, one after another, after another, after another, after another, right? Now, the same person who's so professional, whose hand works like a magician, Will they have the same kind of an expertise executed on somebody whom they know is the question. That is the concept we are trying to introduce here. Okay. So I hope you understand here. So, but yeah, we don't have to get too contextual here. Let's focus on the concept we are trying to talk about here. But yes, there could be an attachment even on the left-hand side. But now let's understand the concept that we are going to introduce. So actions that we perform. See, we are talking about action, inaction, action, inaction, 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 all that stuff. So let's understand how the actions are performed. Actions are performed in type 1 actions. Type 1 action is what we saw in the left-hand side. They are performed by intellect and mind. Okay, intellect and mind. Mind is a storehouse of all the knowledge that you have. Intellect is making decisions at the time of surgery or while teaching. You know what to teach, how to teach, all that stuff. So you are focused when you do job. You're using your intellect and mind there. So there's one kind of action where your mind and intellect is involved. That's it. Nothing more than that. And then there's a type 2 action where you cannot perform any action without mind and intellect. Okay, this will be there regardless. However, there's another dynamic that is introduced, which is attachment. Okay, this is attachment. You see in males, not attachment, but attachment you understand, right? Attachment means now the emotions are involved with that particular act. It should happen like this. What if I fail? Fear of a negative result and all that stuff. This is a dynamic that is introduced, and that is what we saw on the right-hand side. Yes, Sandhya, wanted to ask something?
Just a quick technical question. Can we see in both of these actions there is a subtle involvement of the soul as well, because soul is responsible for anything and everything we do?
So the action is something that Prerak Karta, of course, is soul is energizing it, right? We cannot, our mind, intellect is material. It is jad. It is inert. And it is energized by soul only. So that is why soul has to take responsibility for the actions, because it is the inspirer. Inspirer means it is exerting its free will and then enabling our mind and intellect to perform that action. So that is why soul has to take the reaction aspect of it as well from that action, whatever happens. So soul, it's a baggage that soul has to carry regardless. So true. From that sense, soul is the inspirer in the sense that, and a dead body cannot perform any action because it does not have consciousness. Only a live body can perform actions. And it's because of the soul, it's because of the consciousness, which is a symptom of the soul, the mind and intellect are operational and they can work, take decision, right? So very true. And the second aspect is where the intellect, mind, and the attachment aspect has come as well. Okay, we're talking about live people here. Okay, that means with soul, the soul is pretty much there, not dead people. So, by the way, there's a trivia now. Now, tell me the only person who cannot express gratitude in life. Who's the person who cannot express gratitude in life? Okay, a dead person. Okay, everybody has something to be grateful for. Only a dead person has nobody to express their gratitude because they can't, the soul has departed. So we're talking about live people here, okay, who need to understand Bhagavad Gita. So intellect and mind plus attachment, that variable is introduced. So if you look at it this way, intellect and mind are common in both. Attachment is the only variable. Our mind and intellect, they are very malleable. They can be malleable means, like in chemistry we have heard, right? They can be hammered, press, and you can actually mold it the way that you want. And this is where the science of work. Now, if you understand it, this attachment is the whole thing that makes or breaks the game. That we will keep on hammering this concept throughout the discussion of our Bhagavad Gita on this attachment aspect of it. Right? We spoke about the attachment that is there in like the stories that we spoke about today. The story, there's an attachment aspect that is introduced on the right-hand side. And then we spoke about the attachment here as well. And we spoke about the story of a shopkeeper and the father who's crying and wailing, and our emotions are fluctuating. If somebody is neutral, their emotions would be neutral because they're not attached to the result, right? They would simply do it as a matter of their duty. People who get their salary, typically they're not attached, and they said, I'm going to get my salary regardless, right? So they become neutral to that. See, we know how to operate in a neutral mode for most part of our life, but it's only for a selected few or in situations where we get too attached to the outcome or start building expectations. That's when we start doing binding karma and start messing it up in our head. We are used to it. Like you come to know about a news, you know what, this happened, somebody died in that. Oh my God, I feel so sorry. Really? Are you going to really spend a time 5 hours or 6 hours crying on that? Maybe you would if you are too emotional, but mostly we are neutral to that. You hear it and you move on very quickly. You are neutral to those. But when it happens to somebody near and dear one, whom you know, whom you have seen, or with whom you have some kind of a attachment, that's when it hits us the most. And that is only because of the attachment aspect of it. Yesterday we spoke about that story of Virochan and Prahlad, right? He's a father-son relationship that they have, but this guy is a Karm Yogi. He had perfected that science of work. So now he's at a stature of a king and he's discharging his duty without any attachment. Not that my son, now I need to make an exception and all. He's detached to that process. That is also a state. So that is what Lord Krishna is talking about. When we start putting that attachment into perspective, that's when we start getting closer to the yoga aspect of it. If you keep attachment along with your actions, then you are on the bhog side. Okay, and that karam bhog to karam yog is the whole journey of spirituality, or this is the concept we will keep hammering down over the next 2 to 3 days. Right now, we are in a karam bhog state. We are bhoging our karmas, binding karmas after binding karmas after binding karmas. We are piling up the stack. How do we start reducing that stack and lean more towards, gravitate more towards the yoga, is what we are going to talk about, including practical tools and why it is important, because there are multiple aspects of Karm Yog that we are going to talk about. So let's talk about our mind and intellect. It can be trained. The good thing is you're not stuck with your mind and intellect the way it is right now. It may be an incorrigible, obstinate child, but you can train it. It is very much trainable. You can even train a goat not to eat grass. Yes, Monica, do you have a question before I explain how we can train a goat how not to eat grass? Yes, tell me.
Radha Nitinji again.
Yes.
So Nitinji, things like anger. I mean, we are working on, everything, but then something like anger, and I'm asking from a perspective of a mother where, let's say, the child is not eating and it's a daily regular habit. So you try to control your anger, but at the same time, you lose it at times, right? So is it that we are not improving, or will it count against us as binding karma, or because I have noticed in myself that if something is happening in the office, I don't get angry because I've gotten a perspective now. But then when it comes to my own son, लगता है कि क्या रोज.
So let's understand what Bhagavad Gita talks about that aspect, right? So 2.62 sets the preface for it. It says, what does it say, Sangaste? It says basically when we come in contact, basically when we repeatedly contemplate upon something, right? Then we form a kind of an attachment to it. Dhyayato Vishyan Punsa Sangaste Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Vijayate. So how does anger unfold? We repeatedly contemplate. This is important. Let's say take an example of kid, right? We think it's important for them because we have an attachment, right? And we have an attachment or an outcome in mind that it's good for them and they need to build their health and all that stuff. Now what happened? Repeated contemplation. Now do you think if this happens, this is desirable action, the other one is not, and this is already feeded in your mind. And when there is an obstruction to that, whenever some kind of an obstruction comes, and that obstruction ironically can be presented by the kid itself, I'm not going to eat, they start throwing tantrums. Then what happens when the obstruction comes to something where you have already contemplated happiness on, it gets obstructed, you'll become angry. So the root cause of becoming angry is again attachment. Okay, pure attachment, right? So we need to work on that, of course. I mean, again, it becomes contextual what works for the kids, right? Sometimes they need to be given a carrot, sometimes whack and all that stuff. Kid glove treatment. They say iron glove and velvet glove, when to use, how to use, depends on the personality of the kid as well. Only until the age they are coachable. Beyond a point, you have done whatever you could have done, then they have a mind of their own. But I think each one to its own to figure that out. But the root cause of anger is actually, see, if you say the same thing without being, having a twitch in your heart, that will have a better impact. I have tried it with our little one. When I'm upset, it does not give a good result. But when I tell that the same thing gently, firmly, and assertively, without feeling something happening inside me, it has a better impact. Something happens.
Try, Nitinji. That has been taken for granted now.
But it's our attachment that is resulting in that anger. And then, of course, whenever we do things in anger, it's not good for us. As spirituality, Bhagavad Gita tells us, Krodhod bhavati sammoho sammohat sviti bhabramo, right? All that thing. And then we start saying whatever we want to say, and we can even give them a whack or whatever. So anything done in anger is not good, neither for our spiritual journey, not for the desired impact that you're having, right? For how long we can wield that stick on them. So something
basically,
permanent. Maybe attach it to your value system that they value. Something different that that can get them around. But applying brute force beyond a point does not work.
So getting angry on these basic things also is accumulating karma, right?
Very true. See, it's like in anger, you erode a lot of your pious deed, right? That is how bad anger is. It is called the Senapati, the commander-in-chief of Maya. Right? Anger comes just like that. So we need to control, we need to start working on that as best as we can. We did a course session series on anger management as well. Maybe you want to check it out again. There are tools we can try, but anger is something I think we need to really work on. And it's very difficult. It just comes uninvited, right? But it's not good for our spiritual journey if it comes. See, we can put on an act by being loud. That is different than truly becoming angry. And you would know, are you putting on an act just to tell them, do something, or something is happening inside you? If something is happening inside you, it's not good.
So putting on an act is okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's the snake has to hiss, otherwise how will it protect itself, right?
Yes.
If it starts biting around, then it's a problem. So the point is, our mind is trainable. Whatever we put it to, like the reason I introduced the very first soup of the day today is, our mind is trainable, but the desire has to come from you, right? We spoke about this concept of, when are you going to train your mind? You need to incentivize it. You need to have a good reason to, train your mind. And that was the soup of the day today. Sa yatha kamo bhavati tat kratur bhavati, yat kratur bhavati tat karma kurute, yat karma kurute tad abhinishvatyate. We need to have an intense desire to change. Why? The why has to be clear. It is needed. For what purpose? For my own sake, for my own spiritual upliftment, for me to operate effectively in this world, for me to get closer to God. So that why is clear, then you will make an intense desire. When you make an intense desire, you will have a determined resolve. And when you have a determined resolve, you will put an intense effort. Right? If it is chalta hai, then everything will fall. It's okay to do that, and then all those things will come. So it all starts with an intense desire to do something, and then your mind will cooperate. Mind has to cooperate. That much power we have over it. Okay. I'll tell you, next time you become angry and all of a sudden 100,000 vanishes from your bank account, assuming you have that much, okay? Then will you still become angry? Ask yourself. 1,000 rupees just gets 2 or 3 times, and then you will put on your best behavior no matter what your kid is doing. Okay, that is how smart our mind is. There was a goat. Akbar asked Birbal, can you teach this goat not to eat grass? Okay, he said, of course I can. So what he did, he took the goat, put a lot of green grass in front of it, and the moment it will start eating, give it a tight whack. It did it. Next time it did tight whack, and it did it for about a week, and then the goat stopped looking at the grass itself, because it knew the moment it's going to get a whack. So similarly, our mind can be trained, but the desire has to come from within, right? We need to have an intense desire, and that desire will come when we are intellectually convinced about something, and then we can bring about the change, because our effort is going to be intense around it after that. So that is the concept. And now the building blocks of Bhagavad Gita. Let's get into that. Types of action. I hope it makes sense. We'll take a few questions. So these are the building blocks we'll talk about. 2.47, 4 tenets of Karm Yog. Okay, we will talk in great details. Great means great details, looking at scenarios, situations, talking about that, how to apply it in practical life. The first one is do your duty, do not concern yourself with the results. The second one is the fruits of your actions are not for your enjoyment. The third is even while working, give up the pride of doership. The fourth one is do not be attached to inaction. These are the 4 principles. We will start going through each one of these starting tomorrow. With that, I'm going to take a quick break for any questions that any one of you may have on what we have spoken about today.
So you mean to say we are better than goat? Goat took 1 week, so we can take a couple of days. Is that
Yes.
so? Thank you so much.
I think we can thank for cutting slack to us. Basically, we are trainable. Everything is trainable. And other thing about anger is, now that that topic has come up, it always flows top down. Okay, you will have anybody seen getting angry on their boss?
No.
On a Monday morning? No. Nobody does, right? How does it happen? Mind is very smart. So boss shouts at the guy will come home and shout at wife. The wife will shout at son. The son will shout at the pet. And that is how the cycle goes, right? It always flows top down, not bottom up. Have you seen anybody shouting back at their boss or somebody of significance to them? They tolerate even the what do you call that? Unacceptable behavior of people whom they they have to put up with. So that is how our mind works. It's very smart and it's trainable, provided we are willing to invest that effort on it, and we have a good reason for that. Yes, quite a few hands are raised. Let's hear from them.
And in the meantime, Tarunji has commented that emotions are good/bad at times in performing duty. Some jobs are best performed without attachment, and some are performed better with attachment.
No, there is no something. Okay, without attachment is what Lord Krishna is talking about. And I'm telling you, some people give this argument that you have only if you have an attachment will you do something well. No, we will refute it with multiple examples. I will give you. No, that's not it may be counterintuitive for you to begin with, but it is not. And I'll give you some practical example of people who are high achievers in life. What do they have to say about this concept? Because they have practiced this long enough and seen the results, and they are saying that. And I'll tell you some examples in our practical life also where we do this, and still we are not attached to it, and still we are able to do it. We'll talk about all these things. That's why I want to spend good amount of time on this concept, because this is one of the key nuggets from Bhagavad Gita, and we want to do justice to it. So next 2-3 days are blocked for. By the way, we have quiz also coming up, right? So I don't know if our quiz masters are going to include all this or not, and we are all at their mercy. But next quiz is going to be pretty amazing, because we are going to hammer out all the concepts related to Karm Yog in great detail. Yes, let's take a few hands now. And
in the meantime, Prabhat is saying, showing anger to balance situations, even though you are calm inside. Is that so?
Yeah, putting on an act is a different thing, but you would know. Are you truly getting upset from within, or are you just putting on an act? See, some people, they don't listen unless you speak to them loudly. Okay, that's a good excuse I use. I said, I'm just speaking loudly, I'm not angry. But you would know, are something happening inside you, or are you just putting on an act there? Okay, with kids it works. And trust me, I have tried that with our little one as well. Sometimes I'm just telling him very, firmly, loudly, but nothing is happening inside me, and I have seen better results. They pick up the vibe around it as well. But sometimes, some of the attachments that we have, we may have to associate it with one of their value systems to drive home the point. We just need to be smart and inventive around it, and that's about it, because brute force can take us only so far. Yes, let's hear. We still have time, 11 minutes. So yes.
Kumarji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Kumarji.
Jai Shri Ram, everyone. So I'm just driving back from the blissful lecture from Swamiji.
Chicago?
Spiritually blissful, in Chicago. Great lecture as usual, and of course material happiness with some what is it, gajar ka halwa as well. So having said that, I asked this question. I met Swamiji at morning walk. And we were sitting I didn't ask during the morning walk, but when we were sitting for breakfast, I asked. Sorry?
Question.
Yeah, I asked him about anger. So I said, Swamiji, I'm better at anger, but what happens is I do get angry, and then, but I'm able to stop there and not utter words. Swamiji said one thing even better than that, you should not even get angry. Anger is a sin. He very straight away said that. Of course, obviously, we'll have to work towards it, right? So it's not easy. All of us get angry and very resistant, but I think more and more we become purer in our hearts. I think it's much easier to do it, as also Nitinji, you said about kids, right? So again, with kids, trying to make them eat, many doctors say, don't worry about it. They'll come when they're really hungry, they'll come. So I never had this problem with my kids because I always gave them something they liked. So I had no problems with that.
Yeah, it will become a big session where people will say it can be a topic in itself and discussion in it. How
Yeah,
to
but I think we should work on our anger, greed, and all these things are not good for us. We know that, and I think slowly as we purify further, we can get rid of those things. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram. Thank you so much. Please fill out the feedback tracker for the questions you want to discuss as part of this Karm Yog discussion. I've already collected a few questions that you have put in, so please fill out the feedback tracker. I think that has been posted. And we'll talk about all these concepts, including anger, as we go along. I think, but anger is not a good thing. Secondly, it gives kids also some kind of a thing, right? That the only way out is brute force.
And in the US, I think you should better not hit the kids. If someone sees that, they can report you to the police as well.
Thank you for the reassurance, Kumarji.
Yeah, thank you, Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram. Okay, let's maybe take a couple of more hands. We have time. 2 minutes each.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. I just have a thought that came to my mind when Monica ji was asking that if we think of a little child as Krishna that time, and because Yashoda Maya used to get angry sometimes on Kanha when he used to steal butter. So can we make our karma a little better thinking of him as a Krishna?
Actually, Maharaj, that's a good point. Actually, in fact, Maharaj used to say, right, whenever you have this kind of a situation, it's better to put Krishna in them and say, okay, Krishna, that's your way of testing me. I'm not going to fall for it. But if we can bring that, that will be so awesome, right? But anger is something like it comes uninvited, and before you realize you have already done the damage. But yeah, it's a good tip. Thanks for sharing that, Arnima. Okay, Himanshu. And maybe new hands you can take. Yes, Himanshu.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to say from my experience few points, like quickly, that we can also map and understand that we all are coming from a lot of baggage from past, and based on that only we are getting the family. So if someone's sons is troubling them, like their parents a lot, so that's their own karma, and they have to like go through it. Now, if they obviously they are taking help of something like a spiritual practice, that's great, but then at 3 levels, like initially we can also see it as a responsibility. Later on, it comes naturally because it becomes love, and you just start giving everything, because now you start seeing like really from your heart, like Lord Krishna in everyone, and then it happens naturally.
It's very nice. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Radha.
Beautiful point, Himanshu. Very true. In fact, this is how the situations that come in our life is like, what do you call that? Postman delivering our package to us. We don't fight with the postman, right? So typically it's our own calling and the kind of lessons we learn, those kind of people, situations keep starting to come, right? When you think you have arrived, somebody will press your button to tell you, you know what, there is still some work remaining. So if you look at it that way, it's we are playing that game of snakes and ladders all the time. So it's better to take more ladders and less snakes. And anger is a big snake. That snake and 99, you've seen that when you play Ludo, that 99 one, oh my God, brings you back to 2. So that kind of a snake anger is. Yes, let's take Sandhya, go ahead. And Preeti, maybe, and Rahul.
Okay, just quickly wanted to say this regarding anger only, that yes, display is allowed only in 2 situations, parent and teacher. So yes, you can display anger if you are in any of these 2 categories, but being angry from inside is not at all allowed in the material realm. However, it becomes an asset in the spiritual realm. So we can be angry upon our anger because that is taking us away from God. So that way it can be probably seen.
No, good point. Parent or teacher, they have they have the right to put on an act there. And if you add lawyer also to that, then you can see faults also, okay, because that's demands, their profession demands it. But other than, nobody has a moral right to find faults in others. But it's a topic in itself. We'll not digress too much into it today. Yes, Rahul? We can quickly take 2 or 3 hands. By the way, I wanted to announce about the retreat that is coming up. Is that something you wanted to talk about? 2 to 4th. So please sign up for it, register for it. You can watch it online or you could be in person. If you come in person, it is going to be awesome. Okay, we are going to dance our way to glory. It's going to be Bhagavad Gita, the topic, nature walk and whatnot. You just come here and it's going to be a super immersive experience that you don't want to miss out on. So just one, then we are going to, cherry on the top is the Janmashtami celebrations that we are going to do as part of that. So just wanted to let you know there's a trivia that's coming up, online trivia. They're going to be in-person events in temple. If you are in around Dallas, don't miss out on that. So just quick announcements around it. Yes, Rahul.
Yeah, Radhe, I just wanted to add on the upcoming Kahoot quiz. We'll be taking questions like from the last week's session, just to clarify.
Oh, last week's session. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Thanks for clarifying. Game on, guys. I can't wait for the Thursday Kahoot. And it's getting competitive and more engaging by the day. So I hope you all are preparing. I see a big shoot up in the time people are investing on seeing videos and taking screenshots and all that. So let's keep it up. Yes, PTG, you wanted to add something?
Nitinji, no. I have a question, but it is very different from this anger and all. May I go ahead and ask?
Sure, please. We have 4 minutes. I think we can manage. Yeah.
I'll be quick. So the question is, when a person dies, their brain and heart stops working. So obviously they will not respond to any situation. This is medical. Medically they are dead, meaning they do not have a brain working, they do not have a heart working. But when a person dies, the soul goes away, and so the person loses their consciousness or awareness. So how do we make the presence or the absence of soul in a dead body or a presence of a soul in a living body? Because consciousness and awareness are again non-tangible things. People would not believe it. So how do we make them believe in the presence of soul?
Presence of soul, basically when they are in a vegetative state like that towards the end, is what you're talking about?
No, Nitinji. It is like, now I'm alive. I'm conscious. I'm thinking. I'm aware of what I'm doing. If I die the next minute, I will not be aware of anything that I'm doing. So spiritually, my soul will be gone. So my awareness is gone. Medically, my heart and brain have stopped working. So I have no mind or intellect or things that will help me think. So how do I bring in the presence of soul?
So
that was giving me the awareness and consciousness.
Yeah, it was giving you the awareness. Science is struggling with that answer, right? It's not the chemical reactions happening within body which create that consciousness. The fact that you were able to experience, the fact that your mind, intellect were energized to take decision and to do your activity, day-to-day activities, and your body was conscious. It was not rotting, right? That itself says that the presence of soul, when it departs the same body, people say take it away, otherwise it will putrefy, right? They can't take decisions at that moment. So that consciousness, when it passes, your body passes away from your body, is basically life or soul, you may want to call it. Maybe it's a little more nuanced discussion that you're looking for. So let's talk about it. I want to understand that question and then bring it to the session tomorrow for everybody's benefit, because we are running out of time. So I'll give you a quick call on this. But yeah, it reminded me of a joke. When a guy dies, people, the doctor, they check their heart or brain, right? If it stopped working. And when a woman dies, they check their mouth. Okay, so that was a bad joke, but that's what I to truly make sure that the person has died or not. But nevertheless, if you have a question, oh my God, people are saying, oh, what kind of a joke that was. Okay. I read it, okay, somewhere. But anyways, you can fill in the feedback tracker and I would hand it over to the next session. You can stay back, Sunilji and Ajay Bhai, if you are there. Please fill out the feedback tracker and we'll continue on the discussion of Karm Yog tomorrow. We'll go really deep into this topic. Today we introduced the 4 tenets and we'll go one by one. in the coming sessions, and all the best for the quiz to everyone. And over to you, Ajay and Sunil Bhai, if you're there.
Thank you, Nitin Bhai. Thank you very much.